This is another Telperion tutorial on a game of my own design called Clash of Kingdoms. Clash of Kingdoms is going to be kind of a expanding 4X game where you start a nation and have kind of localized politics and all the fun elements of controlling a kingdom. So a game of a Clash of Kingdoms is going to begin where we first start by choosing a kingdom, which involves kind of selecting from a number of races and different bonuses that come with those different nations. Some of them good, some of them evil. There's pros and cons to being good or being evil. It just depends on what sounds more fun to play for you. After you've kind of selected your race or your starting nation, you're also going to have kind of a home area that you determine. So it's going to be kind of where your starting capital is, and then the surrounding hexes around it. You determine what's in your starting kingdom for the nation that you've selected. And with that, every nation begins the game with a number of crowns. Now, crowns are the currency in the game for everything from troops to supplies to spies and assassins and saboteurs and even building buildings and ships. And so crowns are really important. But to start the game, you use your crowns and you simply spend them on different troop types. And so when you start the game, depending on how large or small the game is, will determine how many crowns we start with. But you take your crowns and you use them on kind of a spending menu where you can use one crown to get potentially one elite unit, or maybe you spend one crown and you get three kind of grunt melee units. So in that, you would wonder, well, why wouldn't you just pick all of the elite units? Well, each unit is going to be represented by kind of a chip. And that chip is going to go onto a battle board. And that battle board is going to be smashed up against another battle board. Now, in each battle, you're going to have your kind of represented chips for each different type, and your opponent is going to have their sheet with their chips for their troop types. Your general has the potential to level up over time. For every victory won, will determine how many extra actions he can take during a given month of the campaign. But you take your battle board next to your opponent's battle board, and for every successful hit, they're going to have to remove a chip from the board. So it doesn't matter if that chip is elite or grunt. So then going back to our spending menu, if you get an army completely filled with just grunt units, well, you're going to have a lot of chips, but they're not going to hit very high. They don't hit but on a 10 or more on a 12-sided die. So you're going to take your crowns and you're going to spend them on the different troop types that you would like to see in your armies. And then you're going to split those troops into a number of banners. So each banner is going to look something like this, where it's going to have the number of the banner, and each of your army banners is going to be represented by, again, a chip. So in this case, it would be army number 3. And army number 3, right 3 there, we'll say it has 1 elite archer and 3 regular archers and some mounted cavalry. And of course, it's got a general, and he's level 1, right? You give your army a name and your general a name, and there's your army banner. So you take all the troops that you've spent during your creating a nation, and you spend them on different troops, and you distribute them amongst the banners represented for your nation. And then each one of those banners is going to represent a little guy on the map. So you take your banner with your number and your guy, and you put them somewhere in the starting nation that you've created. After you've split up your nation into army banners, you're going to give them supplies, which to start the game is really simple. You just roll 2 dice, and those 2 dice tell you how many supplies you can split up among the different armies. And then after you've distributed those, you can represent them on the board by just giving them the number of supplies that they have. Supplies are important, especially as we go into the summer months. So the summer months is a big chunk of the game where you move your armies around and perform actions with them. And those are the months of April through September. Each month is where every banner in your nation has the opportunity to do what they have the ability to do. So if your banner can only take one action, then for that month, they only get the one action. But if your banner has a general that gives you the ability to do, let's say, 3 or 4 actions, then you would have the opportunity to do all 3 or 4 up to when you decided that you were done for that month. After you've kind of decided what you're going to do, there's so many choices on what to do. And instead of going through each of those choices in this video, I'm going to explain to you that there's a flow chart, and it helps you to know what you would have to do and whether or not you would want to do something or not want to do something. So instead of walking through that whole flow chart, we're just going to say that every banner has the opportunity to do movements and battles and engagement. And we've already talked a little bit about battles, where once a battle is engaged, you put your chips on the battle board and you remove them as the hit requirements are made for each of the different unit types. That kind of moving through April, May, June, July, September, August, you move through each of the months, and at the end of that, you're going to come into what's called the fall of the year. So during the fall of the year, there's an opportunity to impact the board as a whole through kind of a magic system. And after you've impacted the board as a whole in the fall, we go into the winter months of December through February. In those months, we take our kingdom and our collective castles and fortresses and cities that we've acquired. And again, we go back to the concept of earning crowns. So for certain sizes of cities and certain structures that you have on the map, you're going to get a number of crowns. And then you're going to have an opportunity to spend those crowns on things like spies and assassins and saboteurs and casting magic and all number of different things, building castles, building ships, raising armies, getting supplies for the coming year. All of that is done in the winter months, and it's concluded by the springtime, which is the month of March. So in the springtime, we have more kind of magic that impacts the whole world around you and different nations and your own. And then after we've cast our spring magic, then we go back into the summer months where we move around and we do things with our army. And so the flow of a year is, again, we have a spring where we impact the map, and then we have a summer where we move around and we have battles and we consolidate our forces and we make sure that we've gotten everything done in the summer that we want to get done. And then in the fall, we have more impactful magic. And then in the winter time, we gather our resources together and we spend them on the things that we think we're going to need in the next summer month. All in all, the time of the game would be determined by how many players there are, how big of a map we're playing on, and how many resources you start the game with. So there's no pinpoint on how a game might be, but these are the overarching rules of a game of a Clash of Kings. The specifics of those rules we'll deal with as we play all together.